How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Green Bay Packers first round draft selection, Lukas Van Ness out of Iowa. And in this video, we're going to be breaking down his college tape and going over what he could bring to the Packers defense. As we know, part of the Green Bay Packers Aaron Rodgers trade was a swap with pick 15 and 13 with the New York Jets, where the Packers ended up selecting Lukas Van Ness. Edge was a big need for the Green Bay Packers entering this 2023 season, with Rashawn Gary likely starting the year on the PUP and probably not returning to action until at least week 6 or 7. The Packers had a big question mark and a hole at that edge position next to Preston Smith. They also have Kingsley Enagbare, Justin Hollins, and undrafted free agent Brenton Cox Jr., but with the absence of Rashawn Gary and also just overall a issue at depth at edge, drafting someone like Lukas Van Ness in the first round, I think, will provide a lot for this Packers defense, and he'll see snaps as early as week 1. Quickly, before we get into the tape, I want to go over his RAS and also his PFF. So if we bring up his RAS here, Lukas Van Ness had a 9.39 RAS. We know the Packers love to draft their athletes, with an elite speed grade with a 4.58 40, a great agility grade with great shuttle and 3-cone, a good explosion grade, and also a great size grade. He's 6'5" and 272 pounds. He has the prototypical size and explosion that the Packers love for their outside linebackers. And quickly looking at his PFF grades here, we see he only played in 2 seasons for Iowa and a total of 846 snaps, a 68.6 grade his first year, and jumped all the way up to a 79.6 grade in 2022. We see he had 68 total pressures, 11 total sacks, and 29 total stops. And one thing that's really interesting, which we'll get into when we start watching the film, is Lukas Van Ness's alignment over the 2 years at Iowa. He pretty much lined up everywhere across that defensive line. As we see here, AGP is at nose tackle. He had 59 snaps there. BGP is at defensive tackle, where he actually had the most snaps, 468 snaps. Iowa also did run a 4-3, whereas the Packers run a 3-4, so a little bit different there. We see OVT, which is over tackle. He had 59 snaps, and outside of tackle, kind of more where he'll line up for the Packers in my eyes, he had 246 snaps. All right, so let's now bring up the screen and start diving into Lukas Van Ness's tape over this last season. So here we have Lukas Van Ness out wide here. Like I said, he played all over the defensive line. Watching his tape, he literally played every single position on this defensive line. Over the tackle, he played pretty much every single tech possible. In this play, he's lined up out wide at edge in a 2-point stance, likely where we're going to see him play, mainly for the Green Bay Packers. He has versatility, and they might be able to kick him inside on pass rush down, kind of like they did with Zadarius Smith a few years ago, but I think mainly he's going to be in kind of this position, outside of the tackle in a 2-point stance, like the Packers use their edge rushers. And right here, he's against left tackle Paris Johnson, a very good left tackle, also a first rounder. And in this play, we're going to see Lukas Van Ness just simply walk Paris Johnson Jr. back into CJ Stroud, which is very, very impressive. Watching all of his tape, this guy displays extreme power and burst off the line of scrimmage, and he uses his hands very, very well. He's 11-inch hands, and that's probably his best trait, is getting his hands on the lineman quicker than they get their hands on him. A lot of times he shows really great push, and this is an example of that, giving a really nice pressure on CJ Stroud. The ball's still completed, but nonetheless, walking back someone like Paris Johnson, who is probably the best left tackle coming out of this draft, is super, super impressive. Here's just another view of it, and you can see here just showing great leverage at the point of attack. And again, using his hands and getting his arms extended and just walking Paris Johnson back into the quarterback. Probably one of his best plays you've seen on tape. If you watch his tape before, this is the play you see a lot, and for the right reasons, because it showcases his game really, really well. Here's another clip of Lukas Van Ness against Paris Johnson. This one's going to be a run play. He's outside of the tackle on 2-point stance again, like I said, where we're mainly going to be seeing him as a Green Bay Packer. And off this snap, he's going to do a really nice swipe move to the inside and get right past Paris Johnson. Now, this is a run to the complete opposite side of the field, but Lukas Van Ness isn't going to give up on this. He's going to track the ball carrier and loop back in and make a tackle. Just really good effort here, and continuing to play through the whistle and follow the ball carrier. He's good eyes in the backfield. He's really good at tracking down the ball carrier, and he has a lot of clips that I'll go over that he does really well in the run game. But mainly, the main thing here is that really nice swipe inside on Paris Johnson Jr. Again, this tackle was probably the best left tackle in college football. And Lukas Van Ness did really well against him in this game, so it just shows his ability against some of the better players in college. Here in this play, Lukas Van Ness is lined in between the center and the left guard here, kind of the inside eye, the two tech here, the 2-eye. So like I said, he played pretty much every position on the defensive line. And a lot of the time when he was inside, he did get overpowered by some of the bigger guards, but he also did do decently well when he was lined up on the inside for, you know, being a 275-pound guy. Now, like I said, for the Green Bay Packers, he's mainly going to be outside. They're going to use him like this sometimes, but this isn't his main thing. And Iowa used him all across the defensive line. And I really believe if he just really learns one position, like the edge position in a 3-4 defense, he'll get really good at that. He was moved around a lot. And as you see here, really good job at pushing that left guard basically back into the running back. Lukas Van Ness is always seems to be the first one on the Iowa defensive line to start contact. He's very, very quick off the ball snap. He's very good at getting his hands on the offensive lineman first, and then when he does that and extends his arms out, a lot of the time he uses his power and his leg drive to walk that offensive lineman back like he did here. And I quickly wanted to show you guys what I meant by he sometimes gets overpowered playing the inside there, and that likely would happen at the NFL level against these NFL guards. So like I said, in like third down and long and passing situations, we may see him line up, you know, over a guard or whatnot in a 2-point stance rushing the passer, but I don't see him playing much defensive tackle or nose tackle for the Green Bay defense. And this is the reason for me. I just think he'll get overpowered a decent bit, you know, being 275 pounds. The Packers like to use their interior defensive linemen in different ways. Obviously, being a 3-4 defense, it's a little bit different, but I just wanted to quickly show you guys an example of him completely getting washed out of this run play. And it was sort of a double team, but that guard really just pancaked him and put him right on the ground. In this play, Van Ness is outside of the right tackle, in between the tackle and the tight end here. It's going to be a stunt to the inside, and he's going to use his power to push this right guard back. Like I said, when Van Ness gets his hands on you first, this guy has extreme power and leg drive, and he will walk you back into the quarterback or the running back, whatever type of play it is. So, like I said, where he wins is his arm length, his drive, his break off the ball, and also his leverage at the point of attack, as you see here. In this play, Van Ness is extremely wide, kind of in that 9-tech position, likely where we're going to see him, like I said, for the Green Bay Packers. And he's going to pressure J.J. McCarthy by walking back the Michigan left tackle here, and it's going to create an incomplete pass. Again, just the extreme leg drive and power, just pretty much running straight through this left tackle and walking him right back into the quarterback. Here we have Van Ness against Northwestern on the outside here in a 4-point stance, and he's going to create a really nice pressure on this quarterback by using his strength, power, and body leverage to get outside of that tackle and pressure the quarterback. Really nice pressure here, and again, just using his strength and power and his knockback ability to get around this tackle here. Here we have Van Ness on the outside eye of the left tackle. It's going to be a run play. It's actually audibled into a wildcat run play here. And as I said earlier, he does a really good job at assessing the run and keeping his eyes on the football, as we see here. He's going to get by this tackle, assess where the runner is, and dive in there and make a nice tackle. Here's going to be another run stop against Northwestern. He's right here, kind of slightly outside of the left tackle here, and he's going to use his great burst off the line of scrimmage. As I said earlier, seems like he's always the first one making contact with the offensive lineman out of all these defensive linemen on the Iowa defensive line, and he's really just going to blow up this run play. Just get right into the backfield. As we see there, the left tackle is kind of pulling to the right side, and Lukas Van Ness uses that to his advantage because he goes pretty much unblocked, but he's super quick off the line, gets on the inside of that tight end, and just completely blows up that run play. Here's another run stop against Northwestern. He did really well against the run in this game. Van Ness is at the top of the screen here, outside of this tight end. We're gonna let this run here real quick, and he does a good job at holding this tight end where he wants him. And then as the runner cuts right and goes into his gap, he's gonna swipe underneath, basically just swim that tight end out of the way and make a tackle in the backfield for no gain. In this play against Wisconsin, it's going to basically showcase what I've been saying, his great use of hands and extension of his arms. I'm going to let this run through here. And as we see here, just walking that right tackle back and into the ground. I mean, that's super impressive. Wisconsin has a very good offensive line, and just to see him very easily put this right tackle on the ground, and that's all because of his hand usage there and getting his arms extended. The lineman really has no chance. Like I said, that's his best quality, in my opinion, is the use of his hands and getting his arms extended and basically beating the lineman that way. Here's going to be another example of that. We see Van Ness lined up at defensive tackle at the 3-tech. and using his hands to swipe underneath of this right guard, and it ends up in a sack. A really nice play there. I mean, Graham Mertz for Wisconsin has no time to throw here, and I mean, Van Ness is in the backfield super quickly because he does a really good job there, as you see, getting his hands, his super long arms on the lineman. He can't even get his hands on Van Ness, and at that point, he already lost. So Van Ness then swipes underneath and completes the play with a sack. A couple more plays to go over against Wisconsin. Van Ness on the outside in that 9-tech and 4-point stance, and these plays are mainly going to show his knockback ability. For a defensive lineman, you want them to be able to knock back that offensive lineman very well to disrupt plays, whether that be a run play, a pass play, and that's exactly what Van Ness is really good at. As we see here, that burst off the line of scrimmage and just knocking back that left tackle almost into Graham Mertz to where, you know, he's pressuring him. He's pressuring him by walking back the left tackle, and it's a very poorly thrown ball, and it turns out to be an incomplete pass. As we see the break off the line of scrimmage, very strong leg drive, just a ton of power into those arms and hands to where the lineman just has no chance at that point. And like I said, a walk back into the quarterback and a easy pressure. And here's pretty much the same thing. He's on the opposite side of the line going against the right tackle in Wisconsin. So it's not just, oh, the left tackle in Wisconsin's not a good player. He did it against a guard. He did it against the left tackle. He did it against the right tackle. So pretty much every lineman on this Wisconsin line, which is a very good offensive line, he did the same thing too. Just again, great power. Just driving that right tackle back into Graham Mertz. Mertz does a good job of getting outside of this and completing the pass. But what you're mainly looking at here is Lukas Van Ness walking this right tackle back into the quarterback, which now is a ton of examples I've shown you him doing that. And I have one more clip. Again, it's against Wisconsin. He had a really good game against Wisconsin. Here he's lined up on the outside eye of the right guard, and he's going to do the same thing. He's going to walk this right guard all the way into the backfield. As you see here, extending his arms really well. That guard has no chance. His arms are very short compared to Lukas Van Ness. And when Lukas Van Ness gets his hands on you first, like I said earlier, and he creates a pressure there, and Mertz has to dump it out to the running back for pretty much no gain. So Lukas Van Ness created that pressure and forced Graham Mertz to have to check it down to his running back there. So that is all the film I have for Lukas Van Ness. So I wanted to quickly recap his pros and cons in my opinion. So as I said probably 15 times during that film review, great hands. He's 11-inch hands, and he gets them on the offensive lineman much quicker than they do. So when he gets his hands on you first, that's when you see clips like this, where he's walking back offensive linemen and creating pressure on the quarterback. He's very strong as well, very good leg drive. He has quick burst, quick get off the line of scrimmage, and he shows great push when engaged with offensive linemen, and also great knockback when he initially engages with offensive line. And he does have great versatility. I did say, you know, we're going to see him mainly as that outside 2-point stance, 9-tech type of player for the Green Bay Packers, but we will still see him in different positions. Just, I think that's going to be his main snaps, is going to be at edge, obviously. As for the cons I saw when watching his tape, so obviously there's a lot of clips I went through. I mainly show what he does very well, but I do want to also mention that a lot of the times it seemed Lukas Van Ness got off balance, where he was slipping or getting pancaked or falling underneath the offensive lineman. So that definitely happened a lot, where he just had a poor anchor against that offensive lineman and ended up falling down. He overcommits sometimes. It seemed like sometimes he had a really good pressure on the quarterback or a good run stop, and he really overcommits on that pressure, and the running back or quarterback simply cuts underneath him, and Lukas Van Ness is left in the dust. So that happened a few times. And the final con I have is experience. He only had 2 years at Iowa, and he's still pretty raw, but in my opinion, like I said earlier, if he just sticks to one position, which that's what the Packers are going to do for him, and they play him at that edge position like he's supposed to, and really learn that position, I think he'd become a very good pass rusher for this Packers defense. And the Packers defense is certainly going to need help early on. Like I said, I believe Lukas Van Ness will get a decent amount of snaps week 1. I don't think he'll start right away at edge outside Preston Smith. I think that's going to be Justin Hollins or Kingsley Enagbare. My bet's on Justin Hollins. But rotational edge guys for the Packers defense usually get 30 to 35% of snaps. So I could see if Hollins is starting, both Enagbare and Lukas Van Ness getting around 35% of snaps as early as week 1. So he's going to be thrown right into this defense early on, which a lot of the time in years past, first round defenders for the Packers don't really see many snaps. but I believe that's going to be different because we're not going to see Rashawn Gary week 1. And, you know, if Rashawn Gary is fully healthy, maybe we wouldn't see Lukas Van Ness with a ton of snaps week 1, but he's going to get, you know, basically a lot of experience early on. And I think that's going to help him a lot, just getting experience in this 3-4 defense at edge for the Green Bay Packers. And hopefully Joe Barry can put him in the position to succeed. I was very happy with this draft pick. I thought the Packers needed to address edge, and them doing it in the first round, I think, was a good idea. Preston Smith is only getting older, especially for the future. If Lukas Van Ness pans out the way I think he will, you know, having both him and Rashawn Gary could create a very deadly duo at edge. And we all know defense starts with rushing the quarterback, in my opinion, and also stopping the run. It starts in the trenches. So if the Packers end up having a very good front seven, that'll really help out their secondary and their defense as a whole. But that about does it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like down below. I'm going to release more videos going over the tape of other Green Bay Packers rookies. I've already done, I think, about 4 of them. I did all the wide receivers and also Anthony Johnson Jr. So go check out on my channel if you haven't watched those already. Just breaking down the film of a lot of the Packers rookies and how they'll transition into the NFL for the Packers football team. But that about does it for this one. I appreciate everyone watching. Catch you all in the next one, and as always, go Pack Go.